All right, fine. I'll be a gracious host. How you doing?
Little Mermaid is the scariest Disney movie by far, though.
Why the hell is Ace Blade in your Kickstarter?
Some comics. I'm getting controversial today. We're gonna get controversial today with.
My proudest moment is this interview and being able to talk to you two.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Taurus Comics in collaboration with Fourth Wall Production respectfully brings to you the 114th episode of the Four Tales podcast. I'm your host, Kyron Silva from Taurus Comics. Across the way is nobody, because Danny's not here today. Actually, Danny's running late. Let me not lie about things. What's up, Fish? How you doing? Danny is running late. He's hopefully going to join us soon. So I can't tell you where he is right now. He's on his way, driving home, but he's going to be here too. But when he gets here, we will be your 2 award-winning Blurred comic creators here to help you find your next favorite comic. We are live on the Age the Geekdom Network via Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, and also on TikTok. So if you're listening or watching us live, thank you for your support. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and review this podcast, because all your positive reviews, interactions, and help will help us bring... See, this is what happens. Danny's not here. I don't know how to talk anymore. Your positive interactions will help us reach a bigger audience. You would think I'd be able to get that after so many times, but hey, I guess since Danny's not here, I don't have anybody to talk to, so I'm just going to bring in our guests. We have 2 amazing creators today. We have a Reuben Award nominated artist, which I got to find out what a Reuben Award is. I've never heard of that until I started doing research. So I'm going to ask about what this is exactly. But we have Reuben Award winning artist and creator, and an amazing colorist, and someone from across the way that I get to finally talk to for the first time, because she's made fun of my quote unquote castle plenty of times before in the past. So thank you, William. Thank you. I appreciate it. But we're going to talk to both of them. We're going to talk to Dee Fish and Katy Rewston. How you guys doing today?
Hello.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Katy? Hold on. Katy, can you hear us?
Can you feel us near you?
Dee, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. I guess we lost Katy. I don't know what happened to her. She was there a minute ago.
Katy!
Fish Comics says, "Yeah, it's my favorite Katy, my second favorite Fish." That's actually true. I agree. Katy, I don't know what's going on with you. We can't hear you or anything. I don't know if you're muted or something. Okay. All right. Well, Katy's going to try to fix her issue, then come back and then come on. But Dee.
Hello.
I think it's my internet is just kicking off.
Oh, no. Oh. Well, hopefully. Well, Dee, let's start with you, because you're the creator of this book. So for anybody that's not familiar with you and your work, can you give us a brief overview of who you are, what you do, and things like that?
Well, my name is Dee Fish. I'm a cartoonist. I've been doing webcomics and comics, both online and print, since about 2001, where I launched my first webcomic, which was called Dandy and Company. And I started my current strip in 2017. It's called Finding Dee. It's a semi-autobiographical slice of life webcomic that I started about a year after coming out as transgender and needing a way to kind of chronicle that a little bit, because it began as, I always tell the story as, it began as a blog. I just was like, let me make a blog. Everyone's blogging, so I'm going to write about this experience and the different things that I'm noticing and going through and what have you. And within like 2 posts, it turned really hyper negative. It was just me kind of talking about the negative experiences that I was having, the negative feelings that I was feeling when I go out somewhere. And very shortly, I realized that's not healthy for me. Sorry, postnasal drip and allergies. It wasn't healthy. There are some people who can vent that kind of stuff and it helps them and they feel better as a result of it. I'm the kind of person that I start ranting about the things that are bothering me or things that are like that for me, and they just build. And I'm like, oh, this is just not working for me. And throughout that first year of coming out, I had so many friends that kept saying, oh, you should make a comic about this. You should totally make a comic about coming out, about being trans, about this. Make a comic about it. Make a comic about it. Make a comic book about it. And I'm like, fine, I'll make a freaking comic about it. And so I decided, since I'd had a lot of experience doing comic strips, like daily newspaper style comic strips with punchlines and all that jazz, and I had already been appearing for years as a supporting character in my other comic strip, Dandy and Company. I was the cartoonist. I would pop up every now and again and interact with the characters. So I had actually come out as trans in a comic strip for Dandy and Company. So I'm like, okay, this is just a spinoff then. Just keep making comic strips in the same basic format. And so I just kind of hit the ground running and started drawing things that I otherwise would have written a blog about. Just everyday things that I was experiencing or thoughts I was having about the whole process. And unlike a lot of other things I've done, I never sat down and planned it. So like I didn't plan out what the model designs for the characters would be. I just started drawing. So that's what the earliest strips look nothing like the current strips, where now I'm like, okay, I'm still doing this. Like 8 years later, I should probably model design the characters of myself and my partner Heidi and all that fun jazz, our dog. And something very, very early on, it went from being here are my experiences as a transgender person to these are just my experiences as a person. And it started as this weird little experiment and people connected to it. People started reading it. People started telling me that they really liked it and it was having an impact on them. It was having an effect on them. And I'm like, well, I guess I got to keep going. I was getting something out of it positively, because the angle I take with it is that I'll tell these stories about, if something negative happens to me, a negative experience that is directly related to my coming out, my being trans, what have you. Okay, maybe there's a story in there for the strip, but can I figure out a way to, in a few panels, still make it kind of funny? Can I find a punchline or a way to laugh at that situation in the comic strip? Because then maybe real me will be able to deal with that situation better when it actually happens again. And it's been kind of beneficial to me in that regard. I mean, there's something to be said for the therapy value of art, and I've gotten a lot out of doing this. I've had a lot of people come back to me and tell me that it was important to them. So yeah, I'd like to say, to make a long story short, but I clearly didn't do that.
It's okay. I mean, it looks like you've touched a lot of people. I'm reading in the comments here from Mr. Fish Comics. It's way more emotional, moving than he expected, which is great. Is that some of the things that you find that you want to hear when people are reading your stories, just how it connects with them and how it makes them feel?
It's weird. It's never anything that I've been going for. I'm never like, I'm hoping that today this comic will, I don't. I mean, 90% of the time, I'm hoping I get a laugh out of people because it's still a comedy strip. I'm hoping that people go, that was funny, and they relate back, or say, my gosh, that happens to me too. One of the first strips that I realized the strip was not going to just be all transgender all the time was I did a comic strip just about looking for a bra. And I'm like, okay, trying to find a bra. I'm not a small person. I am tall. I am fairly wide in build. So finding a bra that both fits, is fairly cute, and is also inexpensive was like finding the Holy Grail. So I'm like, ooh, Indiana Jones parody. So I drew myself in kind of like a mix of Indiana Jones and Lara Croft, and I'm being chased by boulders and darts, and I finally find the perfect bra. And to me, at the time, I had just been, it had been about a year since I'd come out. I drew that strip, and that was when I realized I wasn't drawing transgender experiences. I was drawing universal experiences. And that set the tone for how I do all of these strips. They're just about these universal experiences, everyday kind of things that I had never thought of in that term, but that's what connects with people when they can look at it and see their own experience, regardless of where they are on that spectrum, gay or straight or trans or cis, anywhere in between. We're all people. These are all fairly universal experiences that I talk about 9 times out of 10, even if they are directly related to something like I've done strips about various surgeries that I've had done that are very specific trans-related surgeries, but all the recovery strips are super relatable to anyone who's recovered from almost any surgery, where they're like, oh gosh, yeah, I had they had to do something in my abdomen. And of course, my dog immediately wants to jump there constantly.
Looks like we have D'Artagnan Jerry Quietly back with us, aka Danny J. Quick. What's up,
Sorry, I'm
D'Artagnan?
late. No. What's up? How y'all doing, man? I'm sorry I'm late. I had
Hello.
some
Hi.
car trouble this morning. I'll just leave it at that. Just leave it at that. I caught the back end of what you're saying, and I can definitely relate to trying to find the perfect bra as a husband of 20 years, a husband of almost 20 years, and a father of 3 girls. Bra shopping is way harder than you would imagine.
It's not.
Oh yeah.
I've been married to my wife
are
for
they
almost
so
21
expensive,
years,
first of
and
all?
I've never had to go on bra shopping with her. So I don't
Really?
know what this. Yeah, never.
Hey, I'm telling you, man. I don't know why they're so expensive, but like if you find a good one, it's really like wow.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you're above a certain size, you get brown burlap sacks, basically. And then, of course, there's also, when it comes to the expensive thing, there is something called the pink tax that you discover very, very quickly along in this journey, where anything that is marketed as this version of a normal product for a woman is absolutely more expensive.
Yeah.
I know, like a lot of comedians have done the bit, but I mean, pens, Bic pens, they have a for her variety that's like $1 more expensive than the exact same pen in blue.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
razors, soap, literally everything, t-shirts, just like the same exact, sometimes even less material is more expensive.
You see, I saw this comment someone had put once about razors, and it was like, oh, women's skin is different from a man's. If they used a man's razor, it would take their skin off. It's like, no, it doesn't. It's got exactly the same skin.
It's the same razor. It's the same razor.
Just one of them.
It literally, yeah. That's actually an argument that goes back literally hundreds of years to like when the Industrial Revolution was building the railroads. They were like, women can't go on trains. If they had to travel past 35 miles an hour, their uterus would fly from their body. Their skin would be flayed off. These were stories that were in major newspapers by reputable scientists that were talking about how like women's bodies would just crumble into powder on a train.
Wow.
I've seen that article. Yeah.
Yes. It's bizarrely insane in that basic mentality has not changed at all in over 100 years.
That's true. That is very true. Now, Katie, well, I should say, Dee, you're the artist and writer. Now, how does Katie fit into this series that you're putting together?
Katie and I were introduced through Lori Foster, head of the studio, and Sarah White, also with Laguna Studios. We were introduced. Katie is an amazing artist and illustrator. Does a lot of wildlife illustration, fantasy illustrations, impeccably gorgeous stuff, just super realistic. If she's painting a bird, she's painting every feather on that bird and every one of the little thingies on the feather that she can probably say the names of. and her name was thrown into the hat for potential colorists for the book. I color like the covers and stuff like that. I'll do random strips on occasion if color is specifically related to the gag. Like I did one like where Heidi and I, like, the power goes out and we do not own flashlights, we own lightsabers.
Nice.
So, the power goes out. So my strip is normally black and white, but for that, I'll put a colored glow on the blades. Stuff like that. But originally, when I was getting samples back from a number of different colorists, Katy picked up on the nuances. Like, Katy looked at my other things that I had done, like the covers of my comics, which are in color. So, like, I don't draw an outline around my eyes. I draw a pupil and I draw an upper lid with a little bit of a wing on it. That's it. There's no similar to how, like, say they do the eyes in Archie comics. Which means, but when I color it, the whites of my eyes are visible. I don't do it like the Batman animated series, Commissioner Gordon, which always drove me nuts. Where it's like, why are the whites of his eyes like the same color as his skin? That's just so weird looking. Yeah, I want the whites to be delineated. The reference I'd sent had the whites delineated, and of everything, like, there's a lot of little things that Katy was doing, like not noodling on the backgrounds, but instead doing tones of color for some of the backgrounds so that the characters pop, because my backgrounds are like suggestions of lines anyway. I'm not doing a graphic novel where I'm taking the backgrounds all that seriously. They're just like a few lines here. Haha, grocery store. I love the way she did the backgrounds. I love that she went in and delineated the white without a holding line and did it right. Above all else, that was the one thing that stuck in my brain as like her.
See, I didn't even realize I was auditioning for a coloring job because Sarah had actually. Yeah,
you're always auditioning, always auditioning. I think I saw.
Sarah had said she said to me, "It's like, have you ever colored any comics?" I was like, "No." She said, "Well, like, here's some pages, just have a go at them." So I was like, "Right, I'll have a go at doing this." So I picked Dee's one and I colored it in. I was like, "What do you think of this?" She's like, "Right, I'll send it to Dee, see what she thinks, and then you see if she gives you the job." Like, wait, what? Then I got the job unexpectedly. So yeah, it's certainly been there.
It's always good to get a job, even when you know you aren't applying for one. That's good. That's good. Yeah. I think one of the first ones I saw recently that Katy did was just a horse. I want to say it was the cover of.
It was the Surgeon.
Surgeon 6, I believe, and it was just the horse with the snowy background and the blood on the ground. And I was like, it's so effective. It's so amazing. Like the details in that horse, like the way you were able to pull that off is amazing. I know a lot of people don't like drawing horses or like, animals in general. Chiron being one of them. But
see, I learned to draw by drawing horses. So when I was a little girl, I was one of the little little kids who loved horses. And I used to work at a riding school, but I used to get the encyclopedias of horse breeds and just copy the horse pictures out. So that's one of the few things I can actually draw off the top of my head without looking at references.
Oh wow!
I mean, if you can give pointers, that would be great.
Yeah, sure, I can easily do that.
We need a whole YouTube tutorial of how to draw horses.
I can do that. I mean, I did for a while do a few like drawing live streams on YouTube, but I need to get back around to doing it again now. But that one was I call it the murder horse because my friend's like, "Has that horse killed somebody? There's a dagger in front of it." It's like, no. No, it's not killed someone, but yet. But
just don't look at that horse the wrong way.
From what I've heard about old paint, probably not. But no, I think one of the first ones I did covers was it for a competition for Mike Freestyle Comics. It was like a cover competition for Emerald Quest. I want to say I'm not very good at remembering names. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. That one I enjoyed that one. But I do like doing covers a lot actually.
I did. I think I entered. That was one of the few contests that I entered. Also, I did. A little illustration of that one. Unfortunately, I didn't win. I'm not quite the artist of like Chiron and them, but I try to throw my hat in there every now and then.
I think out of the four of
Yeah,
us, I'm the worst out of the four of us on the stream right now. So don't even try it.
we're not gonna do that, Kyron. We're not gonna do that because I know I'm the worst. First of all, y'all all have amazing work and amazing talent, man, and it's so good to see. Just different styles of art. D, I was looking through your art and just you can do comic style, and then you can do like the comic strips are so detailed. And I know you were just saying that you don't even do backgrounds, you just do suggestions of lines, but I love your style, the comic strip style that you put together also.
Thank you very much. It's it kind of started like it evolved from the stuff I was doing on Dandy and Company, which was heavily like Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers style influenced. And that's very much in my DNA. I definitely am like drawing from like this. This is something that could be animated, and that's always been a thing that's I've been shooting for. I try to keep the lines closed. I think the only place where I actively choose to not close the lines, and I'm sure this is, I don't think you're there yet, Katie, because by book 2, I was still trying to close the lines on it. But I'm sorry to say by book 3 and book 4, Poe is going to become a nightmare for you. Our poodle, our white poodle Poe, because we tend to leave the hair on the top of his head very long and floofy, and that's how I draw it. And these days, it just is. I do it kind of like Woodstock's hair. It's just a couple of lines that shoot off. There's no holding line for it.
Oh no, you've already got to that in this one that I'm doing because I'm having to try. And
sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
I have a few. In Photoshop, I've got a few rough bristle brushes when I do the tones, and I try to just fade it out a little bit to the edges because every time I've tried closing those lines, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like Poe anymore. That's the weirdest part is like, it doesn't look anything like a poodle when I draw him. But when I tried to draw him like a poodle, he didn't look like my dog. So it's just, I got to draw what the dog feels like, not what the dog looks like.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Kickstarter that you guys have going on right now.
Before we do that though,
okay.
Before we go there, Kyron, I got a question specifically for D. The comic strip, it's so, to me, writing comic strips is harder than writing like full comics. To do, just a page or a couple panels and make it make sense and be impactful. That's something that I wanted to ask you specifically about. Like, do you have any pointers? Because Kyron and I think I wrote, what was it, four strips, and I had no more ideas after that. Like it took all of my energy to get those 4 strips written, and I had no more ideas for Kyron to draw. And I think I saw one where you did, it was a simple one where it was like the mirror. It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, through the week, and at the end, the mirror said I quit, and it was hilarious, but just a simple thing, with the hair. And it's like, it's so impactful. And do you have any tips for writing comic book strips?
God, I've never thought about it in terms of what kind of tips I would give. It's a very different beast. It's really I've written novels, I've written long-term graphic novels and individual comic issues and short stories, and each one does require a different way of approaching it, but they all come down to the same way of structuring everything around a beginning, a middle, and an end. With the comic strip, what I try to do is I always try to follow, even though this is on the internet, there's a back button that anybody can push if they go to the website to read the thing. They can read but I am of the mind that it's that old Stan Lee quote about every comic is someone's first. So I try to make sure that every strip is very self-contained onto itself. Everything that you need to know to get the joke should be in the strip. So that means if the characters are in the strip, I try to make sure that we say each other's names at least once in the strip, even if it's an ongoing storyline. That level of repetition definitely helps make sure everyone knows who everyone is. You need to, if it's a part of an ongoing concept, you need to set up what happened in the last strip in one panel, usually some kind of bit of dialogue where it's like, The toilet is clogged. And this is strip 2 of 3. And it's just me standing in front of the toilet with a plunger is usually enough to set up what happened in the last strip. So you want to make sure your setup is as quick as possible. If you can get that set up in one panel, that gives you however many panels. It's like normally finding D is between 5 and 6 panels. I kind of structure it more like a Sunday strip in a newspaper, but comic page size. So you want to make sure, it's getting that setup that tells the audience everything they need to know in one panel is probably the hardest thing. Punchlines are easy compared to getting that setup structured. Which is I frequently will end up doing 2 panels of exposition just to set that gag up of whatever that gag is going to be. Like the one in question you were talking about with the hair. Anybody who's been reading the strip knows I do gags about bedhead. But as a general concept, bedhead is fairly universal. Well,
not for Danny.
Okay. I looked at the screen as I said it, and I'm like, you might want to add the word fairly to that. But with any general length of hair that acts like this, it's going to happen. So it's like, I've got a decent percentage of the audience is going to get this joke. And then anybody that doesn't get that joke for that reason is going to be like, eh. And I get that. I do get those reactions. But yeah, I put my hair up in a ponytail at night when I go to sleep so I don't choke on it and die because my hair is very wispy. It's
Wait, that's
thick,
a thing?
but it's wispy.
Wait, that's
like,
a thing? People die from choking on their hair?
I don't know that anyone's ever died, but I have woken up gagging.
Oh, wow.
I think it's worse when you've got like curly hair as well. It's like my hair's quite well behaved, even if I don't tie it up, but it never does anything. So
I have it's a curly, wavy hair that is both thick and wispy at the same time, which is an enigma. It's like if I cannot eat with my hair down at all. Unless I've got 40 pounds of product that's keeping it in shape. Because if I were to let my hair down for 3 or 4 seconds, you will see me doing this eventually. Because the hair will just go right in there. So I sleep with a ponytail. But I also toss and turn a lot. So that ponytail is usually dangling off to the side, maybe barely still holding on to my hair. And every morning it's something different. And one of the gags about that strip was the gag where I'm like, put something over your hair, a bonnet over your hair. That'll fix it. Yeah, it didn't fix it. They will not stay on my head. But, and this is something I eventually will work into the strip as a storyline. Doing a strip about your life, but trying to find punchlines frequently means kind of making yourself come off a little stupider than you actually are to make the jokes work.
Yeah.
So as a result, I have been regularly. Sometimes it's mansplaining. Sometimes it's just you're like, wait, do you seriously think I don't know how to do that? I have
the self-deprecation is probably high. Sometimes you have to poke fun at yourself, and I mean sometimes I'm sure you have to just be like, you know what, that was kind of silly. That was a dumb moment.
Yeah.
And you can take those things, turn them into stories. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yep.
I to get that joke.
You have to exaggerate to get that joke. The flip side of that is that what you get are half the comments that get posted on that strip are people telling you, yes, but have you tried doing this? And you're just like, I am 49 years old. I did a strip. Okay. It gets cold here in Pennsylvania in the winters, and I have very, very dry skin. I'm also diabetic. So my fingertips crack in the winter, right along the tips of my nail beds are like this. They don't go like this. They go like this. So they cut in the winter when it gets really dry. I put lotion on in the winter like 10 times a day, easy. Every time I do anything, lotion, which is not easy when you're an artist. That pen will shoot right out of your hand, which I did as a strip as well. But I did a strip about having, my fingertips were split. And the punchline of the joke is literally Heidi saying, have you tried lotion? And I'm like, no, lotion? I've never conceived of such a and I'm, super over the top reaction. And she's like, really? Is that level of sarcasm necessary? Nevertheless, half the comments I got were people saying, well, maybe you've tried lotion, but have you tried this lotion?
Right, this lotion.
Yeah.
Palmer's cocoa butter is the one.
Yes! That's what I use. That's what I use. Does it help? 30% better than some of the other lotions.
Mm-hmm.
You need it with
It's
aloe vera in it.
And I'm getting links to this. I'm getting, well, you can buy these gloves and you can do this and you can do that. And I'm just like,
at least it shows that you have a caring fan base. They care
yes,
about
They
you.
care about you. That's all.
Yeah.
engagement is great. You want people to engage. You want people to react. But on the same token, there is a part of me that's just, as a person, I did a comic strip once about just how I went to peel an egg and the thing came off in one, like I cracked it, I peeled, and the whole shell just came right off. And I turned to Heidi and I'm like, oh my God.
That might be a superpower.
That felt so good. It was like orgasmic. And that's the strip I drew. It's me laying in bed with the peeled egg, and the peeled egg is like, I'm usually not this easy.
So,
and of course, I am getting tips.
You can use a spoon to take the shell off, and it's very easy.
And that's what I was getting. I was getting every tip imaginable. Yeah, but if you run it under water, if you do this, if you do that, and I'm just like, it's not a universal thing. It's always a different experience with each egg. And
I need the spoon tip. What? To say that again, Kyron?
Get a spoon, like a rounded spoon. And what you do is take a small piece of the shell off and just scoop the spoon inside of the egg, and then just move the spoon around, and it separates it from the egg. It separates the shell from the egg.
I'm gonna try that. See?
Now you see, I used to keep chickens, so I know that it's actually depends on how old the egg is, because the fresher the egg is, the harder they are to peel. So.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yep.
How long you boiled it for? All kinds of factors. I've done the spoon thing, and it works sometimes. And then there are some eggs where the shell is just like, no. And it's gonna break. It's gonna shatter into 3,000 tiny little shards that big, and you're gonna be like,
yeah.
I just want the egg.
It's really creepy when they lay them without a shell, though. That does happen sometimes.
Whoa.
Huh. Yeah, it's just like a sack of yolk. It's really disgusting.
Okay.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah,
I never knew that about an egg.
No.
And there goes my lunch plans.
Oh, you get some really weird stuff with chickens.
I have a plate of eggs here that I was.
Katie's like, that's what it looks like.
Let's set that to the side now.
I think this is a good time for us to talk about the Kickstarter.
Oh yeah, back to that.
All right, let's bring up this Kickstarter. Let's see here. Let me get myself organized. Now, the Kickstarter, tell us, Dee, what is the Kickstarter for?
So the Kickstarter is for Volume 2 of Finding. I mean, it includes Volumes 1 and 2, but for this project, what we're doing is Kickstarter is for Volume 2 of the Finding Dee color collection. This includes the strips that are mostly, I think, from 2018 and 19, give or take. And because the comic is normally drawn black and white, we started doing these collections in color where we're Kickstartering them to help cover the costs of coloring and printing and color, which is way more expensive than black and white. And it's a collection of those strips. So it's like probably second or third year stories from the transition, dealing with things like what's on the screen now, when people tell me I need to have a thicker skin because I took something they said too seriously, and I'm like, no, maybe you're just an asshole. But I like to do things like that. Like, instead of just complaining about that or just talking about that experience, I'm like, oh, I'm a cartoonist. Let me draw what it feels like instead of what it looks like, because that might be really boring. And so we're collecting about 75, 80 strips, give or take, of Finding Dee fully colored. Katie's doing amazing work. Covers a bunch of storylines that we did for that arc, like the karaoke strips, which not an easy thing to convey the concept of karaoke in a comic strip. That does not include sound in any way, shape, or form. My getting boob pads from a friend to replace the. That is a mouse pad.
Okay.
Lori and Sarah have had some success with those on another Kickstarter. Recommended, and I'm like, I am not doing a boob mouse. Well, actually, we did do a story.
The hand rests right there on the.
Yeah. So you can rest your hands in a simulacrum of my cleavage. You're welcome.
Alrighty.
This is my gift to humanity.
Yeah,
I am not Bill Waterston. I will absolutely merchandise the HE double hockey sticks out of this stuff. I normally curse like a sailor, but I didn't check what the rules of the podcast were in advance.
That's okay. Danny cusses all the time.
Oh, fucking thank God. So yeah, I've been censoring myself. So I'm like, oh, I should have checked that in advance. I try to build a lot of the merchandise for this based on some of the stories. There's about 4 or 5 strips about my eternal love for pickles, which is a thing that I've always loved pickles, but I did not know that it, in having to do with the salt content of pickles and the side effect of spirolactone, which was a drug that early on, it's a hormone inhibiting drug. Like, so it'll shut down the testosterone production to enable the estrogen that I'm on to actually work. Mm-hmm. And apparently it is a very, very common thing for people on spirolactone to have whatever their interest in pickles are gets cranked up to 14.
Oh, wow.
And I can attest that when I was pickles, if you just put a jar of pickles in front of me, that's when I just started chugging the jar. Also, hot sauce. I was like eating hot sauce on things like it was insane during that period. Not on that anymore because there are things that produce that chemical that are no longer a part of my body. That was covered in the last book. But I'm like, that's what the idea here is. We got the t-shirt for that. It's the American Beauty poster, but with pickles. Because sure, I'll do that. It's hyper suggestive and I don't care. It's the nature of the comic strip.
You guys saw that on the page, didn't I?
Yeah.
This one,
yep,
right?
there it is.
Yeah.
The American Beauty pickle spread.
Okay.
It's actually, that was an idea that I had probably about 5 years ago when those strips were running. I'm like, oh, maybe when I do a book, I'll do that for the black and white books. And I'm like, no, I was at that time, I was like, it's a funny idea, but everyone's gonna make penis jokes about that. And oh, you like the D, ha ha ha. And at the time I was like,
no,
I was very oh yeah. At the time, I was super self-conscious. I knew that was coming. I was still very early in this journey. And so I wasn't quite as like relaxed around that level of that joke. And now I'm just like, bring it, please.
Make it a sticker.
I feel like that's a good marketing thing. Like you can give out stickers that say you like the D, the DEE.
Yep.
and it's just your cartoon.
That's a good idea.
There it is.
Lori, from the studio has embraced in marketing all puns related to my name. The Stan D, anything that we can throw a D-based pun in there, suggestive or not, we do that. I gave her carte blanche. I'm like, yep, just go for it. I don't care. I didn't pick the name for the jokes, but I will accept the jokes. I don't have an elaborate story for it. Sooner or later, I'm going to do a strip or a series of strips about the choosing of my name, because for a lot of trans people, that's a huge deal. And it's you really put so much thought into it. And I didn't. My given name started with the letter D, and a bit of trivia. If you have a name that starts with the letter D, first name or last name, you will be called D. by
That's
a
amazing.
lot of people.
I
And I'm
can
like,
attest to that.
all of my friends were already calling me D. I'm just going to add the letters EE to the end of it, make it a name, and be like, cool, I know how to respond to this. It's a much more gender neutral name. I'm like, that's easy.
Yeah, makes
That's
sense.
easy. I connected to it. I didn't have to change my signature.
Hey, that's a plus.
And again, I don't know what it is about the letter D that means that literally anybody who has a name that starts with the letter D, eventually you're just called D. I don't know any name that I've not seen that happen for.
First nickname you get. First
Yep.
nickname you get if you have a name with the letter D. I wanted to ask about merchandising. I know, especially for indies, merchandising can be a huge headache.
Yes.
Is it Lori and Laguna Studios that are doing, kind of spearheading the merchandising? Because I know they've had a lot of success with that.
Yes.
Whether it's jackets and clothes, or like you said, stickers and mouse pads. Do you have a lot of input in that, or are they just shooting ideas at you and you're just saying yes or no?
A little bit of both. Lori and Sarah will shoot ideas like the mouse pad. But I shot the idea for the t-shirt. That was my idea. I started drawing that just for a piece of promo art. And then I realized as I was drawing it, I'm like, that green t-shirt, that would look cool. So I threw that idea at Sarah and Lori, and they're like, hell yeah.
And then they suggest more colors.
Yeah, and then suggest some colors. Some of the things like the standees were not something I'd ever even considered. Like I've made them for conventions, like handmade them on foam core where I'll paint them myself. And, there's a gag in this book where I used to have a standee of me with a pen, just a drawing of myself going, and I'd sit it on the table. And then I would sit right next to it when people walked by with my actual pen going, because cheesy jokes get attention at conventions. And if you're doing something like that, it's a lot better than doing that bit from the critic and going, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. Any of us who have done conventions know or have had to sit next to that person who has a PA system, are playing music, has a megaphone, and are yelling the exact same catchphrase over and over and over again, to where you're just sharpening your pencil thinking about what orifice to stick it in for that person.
A lot of conventions are banning those type of people now, or maybe those type of people, but banning those options for them. So that's a good thing for us.
I'm very happy about that. I've had to be next to a lot of people. A lot of them will also try to snipe people from your table and stuff like that. And with some of the marketing stuff, I'm trying to keep that idea of something that's going to catch someone's eye, make them chuckle and go, the hell is this? Now I want to know. And they may end up coming back to the source and going, oh, well, the hell with this. But the more eyes you have on something, the better your chances of some degree of success with it. So to me, the parodies and the homages that I like to do to other artists or other things, the cover to the book is a parody of Walter Simonson Beta Ray Bill thing, because Heidi has got this really powerful gravelly voice when she sings. She can do this great growl. We did karaoke one time where it was in the town square in our town, like in the outside, and it was an art show inside a building a block away, and it's in this little mezzanine basement level, and I'm in there, and we hear the windows just start going, and I hear my wife's voice from 2 blocks away. She's in the center of town square singing Immigrant Song and making cars screech their brakes because they didn't expect it.
We did it on one of the live streams once, quite far away from the microphone. It was loud. She's done Immigrant Song in karaoke bars, and turned out the microphone was not on and no one noticed. So she has a very powerful voice with that, and one of her favorite things to do is Immigrant Song. So I'm like, well, I'm drawing her like Thor.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Those strips were actually done before they used Immigrant Song in Thor Ragnarok, FYI. So that only helped. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
thank you for. I was doing that gag before it was in the movie, and then the movie came along, and I'm just like, free
Perfect.
advertising.
Clearly, they stole your idea.
It could be. It could be a
Stranger
reader.
things have happened. I've seen some pretty crazy coincidences, especially in the indie comics community. Somebody will put out something, and then 2 months later, it'll end up in a Marvel movie. You're like, I don't know.
Oh, me and a friend used to, Sabrina, that I work with on the other comic strip I work on, Giant Girl Adventures. We used to write Star Trek fan fiction in a group, like it was like sim writing, where you have your own character and everyone else would kind of bounce back and forth. About half the characters and ideas have shown up in Star Trek Discovery. I kid you not. And we're like,
wow,
those bastards! Their bastards were reading us because that is a direct line lift.
I love that show though. It's one of my favorite shows right now.
We never get upset about it. But we figured out a while ago they were absolutely borrowing ideas from our sim. I know that at one point back during Voyager, Tim Russ got in trouble for admitting the writers do read Star Trek fan fiction for ideas.
That makes sense.
And apparently Paramount got mad at him for that comment. I don't have like the proof of that story, but it's happened. And there are scenes and character concepts where we're just like, damn, they've lifted a lot of ideas from us. Good us.
Yeah. That just shows how creative you guys are.
No acknowledgement, no payment, but at the same token, it's one of those things where it's just like, well, we were taking ideas from Star Trek to write Star Trek fan fiction, so can't get too indignant.
All right. Well, we definitely want everybody to make sure that you guys go to the Kickstarter, support the campaign, because it looks like you have about 17 days left in the campaign.
Yep, about 17 days left. We're about close to a third of our goal.
Yeah, it's definitely doable. Everybody that's listening in, please go to kick.lagunastudios.net and support the campaign. It looks like it's a fun book. What are some of the things that people can maybe get? I know we talked about the boob mouse pad and the book itself. Everybody's gonna remember that, but what else can we get from there if they back it?
Well, there's the first 2 volumes. This first volume is included as a reward tier in some of them. So if you missed the first Kickstarter last year, you can get both volumes, full color, hardcover, softcover, or PDFs. We have a new set of 3 pins to go with the 3 pins we did last year. I'm a huge pin junkie. I've got like a bulletin board at work, and I stick all my pins on it. So I love that stuff. That was the one piece of merch I was the most excited about. Pins? We've got the t-shirts, we've got the mouse pads. There's an acrylic like 6 or 7 inch standy, like desk standy that I want for myself, even though it's of me, which is a weird ego spiral thing that is a whole other story.
You gotta collect your own merch. You got to.
Oh yeah. And there's a bunch of stuff, and then there's some other things that will be revealed when we get closer to stretch goals that I am super excited about. That I am so hoping we get to the stretch goals for in terms of merchandise. I don't want to spoil anything yet, but yeah,
You can spoil it. Go ahead, please. Feel free to.
Trading. We're gonna do trading cards.
Okay.
I
am to get out of her.
I really wanted to talk about it. I loved the 90s trading card boom with the Marvel the first 3 Marvel series to me were just spot perfect. That X-Men series that Jim Lee did, but everything, the DC ones, I'm still going on eBay every now and again. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I want to get the G.I. Joe one that they did in 91, because those are some cool cards. I loved all those card sets, so I pitched to Lori, like, we could do one for Finding D, but it's a universal Laguna Studios design, so that the next person who they do a Kickstarter with, if my set is cards 1 through 4, the next group of people could do 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then after a while, you get a few Kickstarter campaigns that go through there, and then there's an entire set of cards, and we've replicated this really cool thing from the 90s that I loved. I still have them in a binder. I loved all those things. The only thing we can't do is those holograms, and no one does those kinds of holograms anymore. And I loved those holograms.
I'll look into it. I think I actually looked into this and I found a company. So I'll go back through my notes and see if I can find something. And if I find it, I'll send it to you.
I would love that. I've not found anything except for like you can get a picture printed on like holographic paper, but like that classic actual looks 3D hologram, all shiny and silver or whatever. I haven't seen those in. I can't remember the last time I saw a really cool one of those that wasn't just that eagle on my ATM card.
You can get. I've seen them in tourist shops in Scotland with like really dodgy pictures of like Highland cows and stuff on it, but I'm sure people still do them. Loch Ness
I want
monsters and
those.
stuff. I'll get you one if I see one.
Whoos! I love Highland cows.
All right. Well, this has been fun,
Katie's
guys.
always sending me pics. Thank you.
We want to make sure everybody, follows you, keeps up with both of you guys, in your future work. So where can everybody catch you online, catch you on your social media, things like that?
On most social medias, I'm at dbrisbyfish.com. But all of that can be found if you go to artofdfish.com, and the comic is at findingd.com. So it's pretty easy to find.
Okay. Katie?
I'm a bit more elusive to find online because I keep forgetting to do all the social media stuff. But I do have an official Facebook page. I think it's the Facebook with Rewston art at the end of it. But that's mostly for my wildlife art. If you want to see my comic stuff, it's just all posted on Laguna Studios, basically. So
That works.
That works.
Danny, or I'm sorry, D'Artagnan. Where can people check out your work?
Well, if you want to find me, the best place to go is our website, fourthwallpros.com.
Whoa, no, wait. I just thought of something. So this is our first show in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And when we ended the show last week, we put out a poll that said, should Danny, should Danny dye his beard purple? And I got the results. I just remembered I got the results. Hold on. Let's see what the results are.
This is an unofficial poll.
100% of voters said that you should dye your hair purple.
Was one vote.
No, it was more than one. Definitely, it was more
one
than
vote.
one. No.
And nobody asked anybody to vote on that. I don't know where that poll came from. It will not happen.
100% of our people put in that you should dye your hair purple.
You voted on your own poll, and that's
I
not.
did not. I did not.
Where's this poll? We can bump those numbers up.
It was on. I put it through our social media.
I'm gonna bump them down.
You could have. I don't know why you didn't vote.
It's not an official poll. That's why. I have nothing
enough
to do
for at
with
least
this
10
poll.
people to vote on it.
Terrible. We'll see.
So when can we expect Purple Danny?
We'll talk about it later. Maybe when we drop the next Ace Blade book, we might make that happen. But no, if you want to find me online, fourthwallpros.com and the Ace Blade on all social media platforms. Kyron, where can people find you?
You can find me at tauruscomics.com. You can find me on all social medias at Taurus Comics. And this is the first time you've checked out our podcast, you can go and listen to our previous episodes at fourtailspodcast.com. You can also find some merchandise there from us that nobody ever buys, but if you want to buy it, please do. It helps support us. But join us next week where we're not going to have an actual interview. We're going to be recapping something.
X-Men.
That's right. We're going to be
Bishop.
What?
Can you move my head to Bishop?
Nope, you chose that. Nope. I gave you the option of which was your favorite, and you chose that one.
I did. You're right. I did. I appreciate it. The Beast is cool, but
you just
you know what? Before we go, we literally last night, my two children who were watching the show They hadn't watched the past 3 episodes. So I went back and watched them. The whole family watched the past 3 episodes last night. They were flabbergasted at the end of this week's episode. Stephanie literally just got up and walked out. Like it was terrible. But anyway, it's been so great to have y'all. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So everybody, sayonara, goodbye, and until next time, please take care of yourselves and join us in 1 week where we're going to review everything about X-Men 97 Season 1. We're going to have a slew of creators, including Michael Watson, Dan Bethel, Malachi Bailey, Sarah White from Laguna Studios. Danny and myself will be there. We're going to talk about everything about Season 1 of X-Men 97. But you guys have a great week.
I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.